Very, very important. First thing I want you to do is start screen recording this because they are going to take it down. Right. I looked at the UK government's information for healthcare professionals. They just updated it. And I saw something that I found extremely disturbing. And rather than try and break it down myself like I did with last time, I brought in the expert, which is Dr. Brian Hooker. I'm just going to read out to you what I saw. Plain as day on this. Remember, it's an emergency use vaccine. So on their little bit, it says number 2, 1 dose, which is 0.5 milliliters, contains in this COVID-19, this is the Astra Zeneca vaccine we're talking about right now. And then it has the CHAD number we talked about before. Recombinant replication deficient chimpanzee adenovirus vector encoding the SARS-CoV-2 spike glycoprotein produced in genetically modified human embryonic kidney HEK 293 cells, which Brian's going to explain in a minute. And then it says, clear as day, this product contains genetically modified organisms, GMOs in brackets. And for the full list of excipients, go to section 6.1. Everybody can see this, by the way. This is so. First of all, let's make this absolutely clear. This is not conspiracy theory. It's there right in your face from them to the healthcare professionals. So I brought in Dr. Brian Hooker, and we're going to start. Thank you, Dr. Brian Hooker, for being here.
You're welcome.
Explain your qualifications to those who may not understand how brilliant you are.
Okay. I have a PhD in biochemical engineering, and I received that PhD back in 1990. Since then, I've worked in both academic research and industry research in the biotechnology industry for 30 years now. I have over 65 research publications that have been published in peer-reviewed journals all over the world. And many of these appear on the National Library of Medicine's website, PubMed. And I also have 5 United States patents around genetic technologies. Yes, I've done genetic engineering. I've done lots of genetic engineering. And this happens to be genetic technologies, just little elements that we derived from fungal tissues, from fungus. And so I've got a lot of background in genetic engineering. I've got a lot of background. Obviously, I've been doing this in terms of looking at vaccines and vaccine components since about 2001. And so I've been doing this a long time, and I feel very, very confident talking about this.
Right. So what upsets me more than anything else is I'm seeing lines and lines of people who are getting these COVID vaccines. They have no idea what's in them. We're trying to warn them. Please, right in front of your face are the words chimpanzee, aborted fetal tissue, and GMOs right there. First things they tell us about on that list. Could you explain what it all means and what it could mean for the health of the people taking it?
Well, this is actually a virus that is active in chimpanzees. Okay, it is not necessarily active in humans. But it is cultured in human embryonic kidney cells, which means that it can mutate and it can actually become virulent and cause disease in humans. You know, when you take something that is very, very closely matched to a human host and you put it into a human host, then by mutation and by natural selection, then it can become pathogenic all on its own. But what they did with this chimpanzee virus is they modified the spike protein so it would match the human COVID-19 spike protein and be an exact match of one of the mutants of that. So that's where the genetic engineering comes from, is they actually took the virus and they spliced in a piece of the human COVID virus and they made a hybrid. Okay, it's half human COVID, part human COVID virus and part chimpanzee adenovirus. Okay, it is infective. It is a live virus vaccine. That means that you can shed the virus and it can spread. Okay, it spreads as a different disease than COVID-19, but again, there's always the danger that that disease could become infective. Then finally, it is cultured in human embryonic kidney cells. These embryonic kidney cells were from an aborted embryo. That the abortion was done back in the 1970s. They're called HEK cells, which HEK stands for human embryonic kidney cells. And the abortion was a little girl. And so if this is from a religious standpoint, if abortion is objectionable to you, then this is derived from aborted fetal tissue. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we have a GMO. We have a non-human virus spliced to human virus components, and we're growing them all up in genetically modified human embryonic kidney cells. So what could go wrong? Lots of different things can go wrong. The virus could actually enhance transmission and enhance the infectivity of the person that receives the vaccine. They could actually be in more trouble through what's called viral assisted enhancement. Okay, antibody dependent enhancement. And so, that could lead to them becoming more, and when they actually are exposed to coronavirus, becoming more sick than they would. The other thing that can happen is that you're taking bits of genetic information from a female person who was an embryo in 1973, and that DNA can splice directly into the human genome. Okay, so we have hybrids that are, we're becoming genetically modified people are becoming hybrids as those genetic components then enter into the human genome. So when you get this vaccine, there's a possibility that would happen. Genetic material is very fluid. It likes to stick to itself, and it likes to stick to different fragments of DNA that enter into the cell. So that's a problem too. And then finally, if transmission is not blocked by this vaccine, then what can possibly happen is by natural selection, you create individuals that are slightly immune to the virus, but the virus will mutate so they can survive in those individuals. And that causes the virus to mutate on a population basis. So it becomes more virulent, you get higher mortality, and then you raise up a superbug because natural selection works. Viruses, when you create an individual who's immune to one virus, the virus will mutate so it's no longer immune, and you can get into a situation in a scenario where from a population standpoint, then because you have all these people who are immune to one virus, the virus mutates and they're no longer immune, and the new virus will actually cause more damage, will cause more mortality than the original COVID-19 virus. So this is really, it's a foolish design. Other vaccines are designed in similar ways, but the way that this is being put together is very hasty.
And the chimpanzee, very alarming. Who wants anything derived from anything or any part of a chimpanzee or aborted fetal tissue in your beautiful child, let alone yourself? It's disgusting. Right. Am I correct in saying that we absolutely do not know the long-term effects of this vaccine? We're seeing the current effects of people dying, not being able to walk, passing out, getting very, 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 very sick. My inbox is absolutely flooded with people asking for help after having this vaccine. So the long-term effects, who knows? We don't.
We don't know.
Part of an experiment.
We don't know. Whenever you splice different portions of genetic material into the human genome, the number one consequence of doing that is cancer. And so you have to be very, very concerned about that. And, when you splice different portions of viruses like this chimpanzee virus, or even little bits and pieces of the human embryonic kidney cell DNA, when you splice that into human cells, then that can promote certain types of cancers. And so, from a long-term standpoint, we do have to look at that. And then looking at the two vaccines that are on the market now, their safety profile is abysmal. I checked the vaccine adverse events reporting system, VAERS, every week. They update it on Friday, so you get all the data from the previous week on that Friday. And so far, for the COVID-19 vaccines in the United States alone, there are approximately 7,000 reported adverse events. These are reportable events that have happened in the United States, including 66 deaths and over 2,000 incidences of some type of anaphylactoid or anaphylaxis reaction. And so the safety profiles of these things, it's what we would have expected because they weren't tested long enough. They were tested. The tests were rushed. They didn't have long-term human studies. They didn't have long-term animal studies. And so we're seeing a lot of adverse events that could have been flagged and could have been considered if this would have been done in a logical time frame. But instead, we're rushing to get these things to market, and people are suffering because of it.
And once again, to people who may be skeptical about what we're talking about, this is them telling us. This is not coming from Dr. Hooker or myself. This is right from the information from the UK government for healthcare professionals. Everybody can find it. It's there for everybody to see. It's in black and white, very, very bold, everything I just read out. So am I correct in saying in this AstraZeneca vaccine are chimpanzee, aborted fetal tissue, and genetically modified organisms, as they say themselves right here?
That is correct. It is a virus, to be exact, it is a virus that infects chimpanzees, not a virus that infects humans. And so therefore, we're getting a variant that infects a mammal that's very, very close in physiology to us. So as that ruminates, as that is being injected into the population, that could become infective to humans. It's what's called gain of function. When a virus gains function and they go from one host to the next host, that type of gain of function can occur. And so it's very dangerous to use that. Aborted fetal tissue, absolutely. Aborted fetal DNA, absolutely. And everything that Teresa Deischer has talked about for many, many years is valid here because we've got human embryonic kidney cells. And then we have genetic modification of those, both those components together, including the human COVID-19 virus, viral spike protein. And so, that has a litany of issues in and of itself. It can cause antibody-dependent enhancement of the disease, where the antibodies actually lead the virus to the place where it can infect human cells, and the vaccine would be null and void at best.
And for everybody for asking, the link is on. Go to www.gov.uk. You will find it there. Information for healthcare professionals on this. Dr. Hooker, just to thank you, because I know your time is very precious. The main reason for doing this is to keep people informed. Would you, under any circumstances, recommend this COVID vaccine, AstraZeneca COVID, or any vaccine, after what we've seen on our tours, and you've been on the bus with me, and we've traveled, and we've been to Australia and pretty much around the world in listening to parents or there physically ourselves? Is there anything that would make you, after what happened to your son? And don't forget, everybody listening, we did vaccinate our children and ourselves. So we were pro-vaccine. We've just been hit hard this way. And we do not want you to go through the same pain. And it is pain. It's utter pain of what happens to someone you love if you vaccinate and you don't know what you're talking about. So is there anything that you would recommend to the public, to the people listening now, about this COVID-19 vaccine?
I just can't recommend that you would receive this or any of the variants of the COVID-19 vaccine. They're untested technologies. They're being rushed to the market. We take issue with vaccines that have been tested over many, many, many years. And I think that, if we look at the adverse events of the childhood vaccination schedule, and I've published on this, there are myriad problems with the childhood vaccination schedule. Those are vaccines that have been tested for many years. Now we have vaccines that are coming down the pipeline that have been tested for a matter of months. They don't know if they provide immunity. They've only been tested to see if they provide immunity for a period of 2 months to 14 weeks. That's it. And so we don't know if they provide immunity. We don't know the long-term health effects because they haven't been studied long-term, and you're participating in a grand medical experiment if you do get one of these vaccines or a combination of these vaccines. And I just can't recommend it.
No, exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time. And people, if you are listening, please do your own research. If you don't want to believe what we're saying, it's right there in front of your faces. Go and do it yourself. Dr. Hugger, you're amazing. We here at the Vax Club love you immensely. And thank you so much for sparing the time to come and explain to the people the very great dangers of the COVID-19 vaccine. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure. It's all mine. Thank you so much.